What if I could teach you a skill where you can predict with about 94% accuracy whether any relationship will survive or collapse within 3 years? A psychologist named Gottman studied thousands of couples and identified 4 patterns. He calls them the Four Horsemen of the apocalypse. And once you know what they are, you'll start seeing them everywhere. In your own relationship, in your parents' marriage, in that couple arguing at the café. And here's the problem. Once you learn to spot them, you can't unsee them. So, should you keep listening? Yes, you should. Because once you're aware of these patterns, you can recognise them in your own relationships and actually heal them. And who knows, you might even be able to help somebody else spot them too. Disclaimer. A quick note. I'm not a couples therapist. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and coach. This is educational content, not relationship advice. So if you're in crisis, please see a licensed professional. Let's get started. What are the Four Horsemen? The Four Horsemen are criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. And let me break those down because the names sound a bit academic, but the reality is quite familiar. Horseman number 1, criticism. Criticism isn't just complaining. Complaining is, oh, I'm frustrated you didn't take the bins out. Criticism is, you never think about anyone but yourself. You're so selfish. You see the difference? Complaining targets the behaviour. Criticism attacks the person. It's character assassination disguised as feedback. And here's the thing, we all do it, especially when we're tired, stressed or fed up. But it's toxic, because once you start saying you always or you never, you're not solving a problem anymore. You're declaring war. Horseman number 2, contempt. Contempt is criticism's nastier older brother. It's sarcasm. Eye-rolling, mocking, sneering. It's that tone that says, I'm better than you, and we both know it. Gottman calls contempt the single biggest predictor of divorce. It's not infidelity, not money problems, it's contempt. Why? Because contempt destroys respect. And without respect, you don't have a relationship. You have a hostage situation. I'll give you an example. Let's say your partner forgets something important. A complaint sounds like, I'm really hurt you forgot our anniversary. Criticism sounds like, you're so thoughtless. And contempt sounds like, oh, of course you forgot. Why am I even surprised? You can't remember anything important. Do you feel the venom in that? That's contempt. Once it shows up, the relationship is on life support. Horseman number 3, defensiveness. Now here's where it gets tricky, because defensiveness feels justified, right? Your partner criticizes you and your instinct is to defend yourself, right? I'm not selfish. I work 60 hours a week to provide for the family. But here's the problem. Defensiveness is really just blame shifting. You're not taking responsibility, you're deflecting, and that shuts down the communication entirely. The antidote to defensiveness is taking responsibility, even partial responsibility. You're right, I have been distracted lately. Let's talk about how I can do better. But obviously when you're hurt and angry, that feels impossible. So instead, you defend, and the cycle continues. Horseman number 4, stonewalling. Stonewalling is when you just shut down. You stop responding. You give one-word answers, or you leave the room. You go emotionally blank. I remember at the end of my marriage, it was things like, I'm not discussing that with you when you're going to wake the kids. This isn't the time and the place. And look, sometimes stonewalling, it's self-protection. You're overwhelmed, flooded, and you genuinely can't engage, and that's valid. But chronic stonewalling is a relationship killer, because it sends the message, you're not worth engaging with. I'm done. Gottman found that, perhaps surprisingly, men stonewall more than women. Probably because men get physiologically flooded faster in conflict. But anybody can stonewall. And when it becomes a pattern, the other person gives up. They stop trying. And that's the beginning of the end. When awareness becomes a curse. So here's what happened to me. I started learning about these patterns and suddenly I couldn't not see them. I'd be at dinner with friends and I'd watch one partner roll their eyes while the other was talking. Contempt. Or I'd see somebody cross their arms and go silent mid-conversation. Stonewalling. Or I'd hear a tone shift from frustration to character attack. Criticism. And it was everywhere. And the worst part, I started seeing it in my own interactions. I'd catch myself getting defensive or making a sarcastic comment and I'd think, oh God, there it is. I'm doing the thing too. For a while, it felt like a curse. Like I traded blissful ignorance for this hyper-vigilant awareness that made every conversation feel like a minefield. But why awareness is actually the gift? Because here's the thing. You can't change what you can't see. The Four Horsemen only have power when they're invisible. When you think, that's just how people argue. When you don't realise that you're slowly poisoning the relationship, one sarcastic comment at a time. Once you see them, once you notice them, you have a choice. You can catch yourself mid-criticism and rephrase. Actually, let me say that differently. I'm frustrated about that, but I'm not attacking you. You can notice a contempt rising and take a breath. I'm feeling really angry right now. Can we just pause and come back to this? You can recognize defensiveness and choose responsibility instead. You're right, I messed up. How can I make this right? You can see stonewalling happening and communicate your need for a break. I'm overwhelmed. I just need 20 minutes and then I'll come back and we'll talk about this more. Is that okay? And that's the difference between awareness and ignorance. Ignorance keeps you stuck in the pattern. Awareness gives you the tools to break it. The antidotes. Gottman doesn't just identify the horsemen, he does give you the antidotes. For criticism, turn complaints into requests. I need you to take the bins out tonight, instead of you never help around the house. For contempt, build a culture of appreciation. Notice what's good, not just what's wrong. For defensiveness, take responsibility, even if it's just 1 or 2% your fault. For stonewalling, learn to self-soothe. And just come back when you're regulated. Simple? Easy? God, no. But it does work. If you catch the horseman early and you're both willing to do the work, you can turn things around. In closing, look, I'm not saying this episode will save your relationship. I'm not a miracle worker, but I am saying this. If you're noticing these patterns in your relationship or in your parents' marriage, in your own behaviour, that's not a bad thing. It's the first step. Because you can't fix what you can't see, and now you can see it. The question is, what are you going to do with that awareness? If this resonated with you, subscribe wherever you're listening. New episodes twice a week. I'd love to hear from you. Have you noticed the Four Horsemen in your own life? Send me a message at martin@martinpavian.com. And if you're navigating a crossroads, whether it's a relationship crisis, a career shift, or just feeling stuck, visit martinpavian.com for a free 20-minute clarity call. Let's talk about how coaching and hypnotherapy can help you move forward. I'm Martin Pavian. Thanks for listening.